The Glass CEO, an outlet, a channel, a platform dedicated to cast glass. Let's do the YouTube thing. Can you please subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and if you're happy to do so, share them.
Yeah. I'm glad you led with that. That's quite a good point. I was just going to come round to the show. So how were you approached? What's the process? Is it something you apply for? Did they contact you?
So, we have to apply for it. There's a call first. I guess it's pretty short before the show films. They put out a call. I think they put out a call, and 2 months later, a month later, you have to submit all the information. Right. So I remember when the first season went out, it was like we all got emails. I think every glassblower in the world got an email like, "Hey, you want to do the show?" And I was like, "What is this?" Nobody knew what it was going to be, and I didn't go for it the first season. It was kind of like, I don't think it's my thing. I didn't know what it was going to be, honestly.
Yep.
I thought it was going to be much more about Venetian glass blowing and traditional glass blowing, yep, and making objects that are not artistic, that are more craft based. I want to say not conceptual, I guess is more the word.
Yeah, you mean more like a practical item, like a tableware piece, yep, or something, which is still skillful, very beautiful.
It's artisan, yeah.
Part of a champagne, part of a chandelier, it's great, but it's not really what we class as art when we look around your studio and what other people on the show produce.
Yeah, and then when I saw the first season, Deborah, I had known Deborah for years, and I knew Alex Rosenberg a little bit. I knew Janusz was a fantastic maker as well, and to watch them and to be this is not what I expected at all. Yeah. I knew all of their skill sets, but the way that they approached every piece, it was really, everything was very conceptual and yeah, and not in an over-conceptual way. It was the way that I thought art can be. It's accessible to everyone, and it's also it's a reality show. It's accessible, but it also shows the craft and the thought and the process.
Yeah. Okay, so I discovered the show when it was actually in its second season. Mm-hmm. I'm not a glass artist myself. I am involved heavily in glass, but I'm not an artist, so I didn't get the email. I wouldn't because I don't produce glass like that. But I saw this, it was about this time of the year, it was heading towards Christmas, and we were actually staying in with some friends, and I was just flicking through Netflix one day. I'm like, what's this? And obviously, Blown Away, it's a bit of a weird name. Saw the glass blower. Anyway, I think I got through all 2 seasons in one night, stayed up the whole night and just did the whole thing back to back, because it was
definitely
just
binging.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing because you've got fire, which is amazing to watch. You've got all these artists which are amazing to watch and what they're creating. And then you've got the competitive side as well. And then you've got the judges and things. And the way it's all filmed, directed and cut and edited and everything, I think it's a really, really cool show. So
yeah, I think so too. And I think they did, you see the difference between the first and the second season.
Absolutely.
And then, I don't think it's to me it seems like that the crew didn't know what they were getting into. Not everybody on the crew knew that much about glass blowing, so they were a bit surprised the way that people were working together, and it wasn't competitive and it wasn't cutthroat.
Yeah, because there is an element of, you can see the competition side of it, but you've also got people
who help each other,
helping out because they don't want to see the piece get broken because they know how much work and effort goes in.
That's what we do
to making this thing that's this big and.
Yeah, and you see that, and then watching the second season, I remember it was during COVID, and we are so waiting for something to come out, yeah. And then I had kind of I knew some of the people from that season, so I watched that. I had applied for second season, I didn't get into that one,
right.
But then watching that one and seeing Elliot win, because I knew his work was already fantastic before the show, and then to see it on the show was amazing to watch, just the stuff and. Yeah, and it's cool to see your friends on TV, on Netflix.
Right. Yeah, so it was kind of like the end of COVID, because I remember after seeing the second show, I obviously discovered who Elliot was. I bought a couple of his pieces to have at home or in my office, and I ended up talking to him, and then that's when I got the invite down to the demo and met yourself and what have you. So can you talk us through what happens on the show? What's because obviously people are watching it in whatever it is, 25, 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. But obviously it's obviously filmed over a period of time. What are the kind of days? Can you talk us through a bit of the show without revealing too much?
Yeah. Well, I think the weirdest part is when you get there. So I had to come in a couple days early because I was coming from Europe, so I had to be there to make sure that I would adjust, I guess, for jet lag.
Yeah, time-wise and things, yeah.
But the first, I guess I was there for 3 days, and you're in you're sequestered, so you're in your room and you're not allowed out of your room, which is weird because they don't want you to know who else is on the show.
Of course.
So you pretty much like sit around, and like for me it was I had never. I mean, I guess I was in Canada when I was like 12 or something, but I'd never really been in Canada. It's like all of a sudden,
Where's it actually filmed?
It's filmed in Hamilton, which is like just outside of Toronto.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, we're in this like fairly nice hotel, and there's like a kitchenette. There was a TV, there was cable, which I hadn't had ever. Like, I mean, not since I was like 16 or something. And then it was English TV, so I was like, I was watching shitty reality TV, and it was, I was there on my 43rd birthday, and like I landed on my birthday.
Wow.
So I had remember talking to Marta that we would just catch up, and I brought a little bottle of whiskey with me, and then we ended up like talking, and I ended up sitting in a hotel on my 43rd birthday having a online conversation, very COVID-y, having drinks, it was very strange. But yeah, so that was the weirdest part, is you sit there kind of waiting. I guess my sequester was longer than some other people because of the time change. Which I didn't know that until very recently. I didn't know everybody wasn't there for 4 days. It was only me and one other person who were there for a long time. But yeah, and then you don't really know who you're going to see on the show. And when they start doing the first episode, they do, you get like a little trial run, like you can go out and check out the studio and stuff like that. Everybody does it individually, so you can feel out the glass, the equipment a little bit. But then when the first day of filming starts, you don't know who else is there.
Okay.
And
so it's kind of like a reveal.
Yeah, it's a reveal, yes. So that's weird a little bit. And then you're like, oh, cool, these people are going to be here. But the way it's filmed is not the way that it happens, of course. So we had seen the studio before, and they're like, oh, when you come out this time, make it look like it's your first time seeing the studio. And but yeah, so there's a little bit of acting to it in a way, which is funny. But like, yeah, mostly like we go out, we see everybody, they give you the challenge. We must have gotten the challenge the night before. On that, because usually you get the challenge before the day. I don't remember when we got it, but we got the challenge ahead of time. We do not know who the guest judge is, so that was always a surprise. But basically you stand around and they film all of the opening sequences where we're doing the sketches, where you're getting the challenge, where you're looking around, introducing yourselves, all of that stuff is filmed. And then you have a long break when you eat lunch, and they were giving us these like giant lunches with potatoes and stuffing and meat, and I just remember being like, if I eat this, I am never going to be able to make something this afternoon. So I was like really careful about what I was eating. And then and then like a couple hours later you go in and you blow glass. So they're doing all these big camera resets and stuff, and then you have like that timeline is real. So when you go, like if you have 5 hours, you have 5 hours,
and that's it.
That's it.
So when you're getting the challenge and you're thinking about the piece, you've got to be thinking about the timing as well, because
absolutely. Yeah,
there's no extensions or
and there's no clocks, so you have to. It has to be an internal timing. So you're not allowed to have your phones, you're not allowed to have watches. You're allowed to ask a time check, but you have to ask it all the time. And then there's these other things that they do, like when they yell at the times on the show. Those are all fake time checks. So like they'll do this thing when I do all these time checks. Wait, what? How long do we have left? Oh, that was a fake one. Like it's this kind of things that happen. But that was,
they've got to add some drama.
Of course. Well, they just want to have it so they could use it in the cuts. It's like having all the parts there. But that timeline was very real. That 5 hour, whatever, that put the pressure on. And
so if that's a 5 hour timeline, is that for you to create a piece from start to finish?
Yeah, that's from start to finish.
So you don't get like a prep?
No. So you get the challenge earlier. You get the challenge night before. So like you don't do all the drawings and all that stuff in that 5 hours. Your 5 hours is purely making.
So you know what you're doing in that 5 hours.
Yeah. You go into it with a plan typically. You start, you work through that time, and then when you finish, you're like, you have like the most biggest relief. You're free and you're exhausted because it's been a long day. Because we start early too. Like the calls.
So is one episode kind of like
4 days, 3 to 4 days.
One episode is filmed over 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So in the beginning of the show, when there's 10 people, it's 4 days. Because so you have this first day, which is the opening sequence, the challenge, the actual making, and then like in that day starts like usually 6:30 or something like that, and we don't even get blowing glass till 2:30. So you already have like a pretty solid work day in before you start working. And the film crew is there like nonstop. And then the next day we had interviews. So when you see me in like the pink hoodie, they would like they have you.
Web shop will be below.
Yeah, it's there. They basically interview everybody. So it's about an hour to an hour and a half interview.
Yeah, and there's 10 of you. So that's.
What's that?
And there's 10 of you.
Yep. Yeah, and the first day is the longest interviews, and they basically interview about what you made, what you think. They ask a lot of questions, and they use like 1 second of everything. It's crazy,
yeah.
but they ask a lot of questions, and then they take your clothes from you so you can't get them dirty, which is really a relief because I would have destroyed that hoodie if I had it any at all. But yeah, no, and then the next day typically we had to cold work and finish the piece.
Yeah.
So we had to like grind it, polish it, or whatever you're doing, and then put it on display. And we had about an hour for that. So like an hour to finish it and put it on display together.
Right. And is that where then it arrives in the white box at the end?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's where all the pieces are displayed.
Yeah, and then, so in the first 5 episodes or so, the fourth day was when we did the elimination. Okay. So they did the critique and the elimination. That's also like 6 hours of filming or something. So you go out and see the pieces. They ask you all the questions. We sit around a lot. Then the judges delineate and decide who's going home and who's not, who's won, and then they give you the information. The person who lost is immediately gone.
Gone. That's it.
Yeah.
So they're literally just told and removed.
Yeah, and then they put them in the car and they drive them home and they fly out the next day.
Okay.
And then we get the rest of the people get seated again, and we get our next challenge. And we pick our assistants, and we pick it's all random. So you get your challenge, you pick your assistant, you pick your glory hole. And then you go home. And then typically we'd go meet with the people who were going home that day.
Yeah.
And then think about what you're making the next day, because it's also the next day you have to know what the fuck you're making. So it's a crazy trip.
It's a really crazy schedule then.
But so the last 5 days, or the last 5 episodes, there's 3 days. So that cold working is in the morning, and then you have that thing in the afternoon.
Is that just because there's less people?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have less to film, they don't have to set aside so much time for everybody. So
Right.
we had kind of a short day in the middle, but then the other days, like the two, like the making day and the evaluation day were longer days.
Are they literally just starting from start to finish, or is there any weekends off or anything, or is it?
No. We had 1 day off in the middle and 1 day off before the finale.
Wow.
So everything was like every day, at least you had 2 hours or something of work.
So what's the rough period that you have to be there for? If you obviously for yourself, obviously if you're eliminated first, we kind of know. But if you're going to be there as the winner, like you did, how long were you there for start to finish?
I think I was there. So I was there all of October. So I was there like near like the last 5 days.
30 days. Almost.
More, yeah. Because I think I got back. I thought I got back on November 10th. So I think we went from like.
Yeah. So obviously you had a few days extra because of the flights in and out.
Yeah.
So 35, 40 days.
Yeah, roughly. It's like 5-6 weeks. Because October's a long month, so 6 weeks I think. In my head, it felt like it was 8 weeks, but I think it's 6, like just under 6 weeks.
Yeah. And other than winning, put the winning to the side, did you actually enjoy the experience?
Yeah, I loved it. It was like, I said like you want to be a professional artist, like literally somebody like takes care of your place to live, they feed you, they tell you what to make, and all you do is make it, and you get paid for it. Like it was awesome. Like it was very, for me it was relaxing because I just didn't have to worry about the other stuff I would normally be worried about.
Right.
Like I wasn't worried about how much it cost to make the stuff. I wasn't worried about who my assistant was going to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't worried about how I was going to pay them. I just had to worry about making the thing.
Yeah.
Granted, there was pressure on that, but like the making the thing, that's what I do. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah.
It's the rest of it that gets in the way of that sometimes. So, like I like that I just had the freedom to just have to make.
Amazing. So, obviously, you did win, which I presume you're happy with.
Yes. Yeah.
So, if they did a best of the best in, I don't know, whenever they get to season 6 or 10, and they bring 10 of you back, you'd be totally up for that, and
I would do it again.
do the whole thing again.
Yeah,
You'd
I
like
think
to
so.
relive it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of bests on there, so it'd be interesting to see all of us. Everybody has such different styles too, and unique approaches that I would love to see how that would go.
Yeah. And can I ask you how you feel after winning the show? Obviously, we're filming this at a time when the actual show that you filmed was
2 years ago.
2 years ago, wasn't it? Yeah, from now where we are now. So season 4's coming out probably early 2024, sometime like that. How do you feel it's helped you? Has it helped you? Has your profile risen? Have you changed the way you work or anything? What type of effect has winning the show had on you?
It's definitely shifted a lot. So I definitely get more recognition now than I did before. Even in the glass world, like I think there was like my work is very different than a lot of people's. I think it's very strange from a lot of people, and I've gotten like I've gotten into things, or not that I didn't have support before, but I've gotten like demonstrations or residencies that I don't think I would have gotten otherwise, or even like invitations I wouldn't have had in the past.
So it's had a very positive effect on
absolutely
your career path.
Yeah, and outside of the glass world, in the actual world, in the real world, people. I think so many more people know what I do now, and that's really like enlightening for me. It's helpful because it shows that like I've been on the right path. Like to make work that I think it's not inaccessible. Like I always thought the work was accessible, harsh sometimes, but accessible.
Yep.
And to come that like a lot of people really appreciate that, and that's huge to like know that you're doing something right. At least it feels like you're doing it right. So that's been a really big difference. One of the other things too is I really changed the dynamic of our studio to to be able to do like more what I want to do than what I have to do. And that's given me the opportunity to kind of spread out and like make objects in like limited editions I never would have done before.
Yeah. Is that mainly because you've now got the ability for that channel for people to want those limited editions, or is it also because you've got more space inside your own studio for manufacture as well? So it's manufacture and the commercial aspect as well.
Yeah, and I think that, and also to realize, and for myself too, that's how I support the bigger stuff. Like instead of having to have a lot of odd jobs or to do a lot of random other things, I'm able to now like use that to like help finance the larger pieces, because the larger pieces are still always what I'm like aiming for. I really love making the big kind of like immersive works, and but I don't make them. I never have made them that much. I've always made them one a year, maybe if I'm lucky, and maybe two. But then I was like, in school or something. But like, to be able to do that is huge, and to feel that that's like that I can then have an avenue to show those to is really important to me. It's like things have gone. I think that's all come from the show. It's
like you say, the connections, the network. It's all kind of compounded, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Into a more positive direction.
And also, I think the confidence in my own confidence, being like not feeling like I am not.
Do you feel that shows through in work you produce now to say something you did 5 years ago? Do you see a difference in the piece?
And not even in how I make it, but in how I am able to convey it to other people. Like I'm more confident in like not having to worry about like if I'm like now I can say I'm a professional artist because I've done this show. You asked me about that earlier, and that's like a funny thing. It's like it's in your own head sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've been running a studio for 8 years or almost 10 years here, and I never really thought of myself as a purely professional artist because I was always doing this other thing.
Yeah.
And it was only really at the show that I really felt like, no, okay, I can consider myself a fully professional artist now. Like that's what I do. Even though I was before, I just didn't see myself that way. Yeah. I was independent, but I wasn't a professional.
I'm glad you're covering this, because the whole point of this kind of channel podcast is, yes, it's about glass predominantly. The title of the channels and everything is all glass orientated. My passion's glass, your passion's glass. So it's all got a focus around glass. But I kind of want to bring people in the glass world to more of the outside world. And people, 'cause people sometimes say, if I'm on holiday, for example, or visiting someone, and they say, oh, what do you do? I'm involved in glass. Oh, do you sell doors and windows? No.
Yeah.
So trying to explain what you do is a bit difficult, and this is why I thought this would be a great time to release this channel. You're the first person on it, because I feel there's a whole world out there of people who just don't know what is out there.
I've been a glassmaker for 25 years, and I think until the show came out, most people in my circles didn't know actually what I did. They were like, oh, you make glasses?
One of my friends from the past won an award once, and he got congratulated, and it was an award that he won. It was quite a big award, and someone came up to us, oh, overnight success, and he said, yeah, fastest 25-year overnight success. Nobody looks at the 25 years of work he had to do to get to that stage. And I think this is one of the things I want to get through from this channel as well, which is, whether people are looking for, whether they want to try and get on a career path they might be in education, they might want to be an artist, they might want to be an entrepreneur. I want to kind of get people like yourself to validate and justify that it doesn't just happen. No, you didn't just wake up one day, think, oh, I'll just switch a furnace on, I'll buy myself a torch, and I'll make a 6-foot wide cubed Ronald McDonald sculpture. There was a whole build-up, and that's one of the things I want this channel to kind of convey to people for them to see.
Well, I think that's one of the other things to think too is like it's still happening. Like it didn't just even with Blown Away. It's not like it's like not like now I've made it.
You
like
can't
it's
put
still
your success down to the show. That's just like you said. You know, you had that person who believed in you and kept you on that path whilst you were at UPS and you didn't go into UPS management. So you stayed there. You got through that. You got through the hard knocks. You worked in the fab shops. You did the steel jobs and things like that. Then you went to China to teach English. Then you started the career path. You finished the degree. Then you become the artist, and the show's way down the line.
But even with the show, like people think, oh, now that you've done the show, like, oh, you're a celebrity now, everything's, and it's like, no, all it's done was give me more
validation.
Yeah, and also
and exposure.
More, yeah, and more chance to spend more money on other things. Like, what I mean is like, it's not like it opened up more avenues for me to also possibly fail because it's opened up more chances. So it's also like, it's not like it all of a sudden changed it into everything's lucrative now. It just made it mean like now everything's lucrative. Everything has a bigger chance on a bigger scale, which means that there's like bigger failure and bigger success in that way, you know?
But it's still, almost like a seesaw, like a pivot.
Yeah, and it's a path. Like I know I'm still on that path. Like it's not like the show has changed my life, but it's still changing my life. It's still happening.
It's not as if you're going to sell one piece tomorrow and retire.
Exactly.
You're going to keep going and going and going.
And it's something that exists in the world now that people will still see and will still keep growing. Like the more that the show goes on, the more seasons it does, the more people go back and watch, and the more that people will discover you. So it's also not like it's not like it's a one-time thing or whatever that like, oh, I've done that. And I think that's one of the failings of like, you think it like, oh, if I get into this gallery, I've made it. If I sell this piece, I've made it. If I have this show, I've made it. If I do this. And the reality is like, no matter what your plan is, you're going to finish your plan, and it's not going to be the end because by the time you're done that plan, you're going to be on to the next thing already. So yeah, there was one of the things like people, like I said, people think that because the show happened that like you like find that success, but it's one of those things like no matter what happens when you get to the end of the plan, like you're always, especially as like an artist / entrepreneur, whatever it is, you're always on to the next thing before you're finished that thing. It's like a big thing. Like I was recently had an interview, we were talking about this, like what's your end plan, your end goal? I was like, there's no end goal. Like you think there is, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then something else comes along, and that's just the way it goes. It's
you're
like
gonna sell a Ronald McDonald and sail off into the sunset.
Yeah, right. With like I couldn't buy a house with what I would make from that one piece, you know. Like I mean, that's the funny thing with Blown Away is like it seems like it's this amazing thing, but like the reality is you can't buy a car. You know, like it's not enough to buy a furnace. It's like it's the prestige that comes with it.